Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're diving into something a little bit different.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah. We're going to be looking at the Arthurian legend,
Oh, wow. Okay.
but through a specific lens. We found this awesome YouTube video. It's a discussion between two Arthurian enthusiasts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they go way beyond just like the typical swords and sorcery stuff. They talk about profound archetypes that we can see reflected in these knightly tales.
Oh, that's really interesting. So like universal patterns of human experience.
Exactly. And get this, the Grail, that iconic symbol of the Arthurian quest,
Right.
wasn't even part of the original story.
Wow. See, that's the kind of stuff that I love about diving deep into these things.
Yeah.
Like peeling back the layers and discovering those hidden gems. It's amazing how legends evolve over time,
Yeah,
absorbing new ideas and beliefs. It makes you wonder what the original intent was.
for sure. Okay, so before we get to the Grail and its grand entrance, can you kind of set the stage for us? Like, where did this whole King Arthur story even come from?
So the earliest mentions of King Arthur go all the way back to the 5th century,
Wow, okay.
which was a time of huge upheaval in Britain after the Roman Empire withdrew. But these early accounts, they're more like fragments, whispers of a legendary warrior king, not a fully formed narrative.
Oh, I see, I see.
Yeah.
So who gave us the King Arthur we know and love? The one with the knights and the round table and all that?
So that would be Geoffrey of Monmouth,
Okay.
a historian who wrote The History of the Kings of Britain in 1136. His Arthur, he's a powerful warrior king battling Saxon invaders,
Right.
establishing a glorious reign.
So no mystical quests for chalices just yet.
No, not at this point. No Grail in sight.
So when does this whole Grail business enter the picture?
Okay, so it wasn't until the 12th century
Okay.
that the Grail made its grand debut in Arthurian literature. Cottin de Troyes.
Okay.
He was a French poet. And he introduced this concept in his unfinished romance, The Story of the Grail. It was written between 1178 and 1181. And then around 1200, we have another Grail story, Perleval,
Parallel.
written by an anonymous author.
So what was the Grail like in these early stories? Was it the same kind of holy relic that we see in like later versions?
Actually, it's quite different. In Chrétien's version, it's this mysterious vessel.
Mm-hmm.
But its nature and significance are kind of ambiguous. Perleval presents it as a more explicitly Christian symbol, but it's still multi-layered in its meaning.
I'm sensing a theme here. Like, it's almost as if the Grail itself is like an evolving archetype, taking on new meanings as it passes through different hands, you know?
Absolutely. That's such a great observation.
Yeah.
That the Grail's transformation mirrors the evolution of the Arthurian legend as a whole,
Right,
reflecting those changing cultural and spiritual ideas as time goes on.
right.
Cool.
Now, most people, when they think of the Arthurian legend, they pictured that iconic imagery from the movie Excalibur,
Oh, yes. Yep.
which drew heavily from Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, which was written in 1485.
Yes.
That's where we get the knights, the round table, that dramatic love triangle.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Malory's work really synthesized those earlier Arthurian and Grail traditions, creating a really comprehensive version of the legend, which Excalibur then brought to life so vividly.
And so Excalibur really captured the imagination of like a modern audience.
Absolutely.
Before we jump into the specifics of Excalibur,
Okay.
I want to touch on this idea of archetypes
Yeah.
because it's like central to what these Arthurian enthusiasts were discussing.
Yes.
And they kept saying that the Arthurian legend isn't just a collection of stories.
Right.
It's a reflection of these like deep universal patterns of human experience.
Yes.
And they were saying that an archetype isn't just a character type, it's a structure,
Exactly.
like a blueprint for human experience that transcends cultures and time periods.
Exactly.
So I get that. Like, Arthur is like the archetypal hero, Guinevere's the temptress, Merlin's the wise old man.
Right. Yeah.
What about the, like, less obvious ones?
Well, think about Lancelot. He's often seen as the embodiment of chivalry,
Right.
but he also represents the shadow side of the hero,
Ooh.
the potential for betrayal, the struggle with those inner demons,
Oh, I see. So it's like every character embodies both light and shadow,
Exactly.
just like real people do.
Yes.
And understanding these archetypes can help us understand ourselves better.
Precisely. They offer this powerful lens for self-reflection.
Okay.
So they invite us to ask, where do we see these archetypes playing out in our own lives? What are our strengths and weaknesses?
Oh, that's really good.
What are our hidden motivations?
It's like holding up a mirror to the human psyche, right?
Exactly.
So let's look at how these archetypes play out specifically in Excalibur.
Okay, yeah.
particularly within that central triangle of Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot.
Yes.
So at the beginning of the film, Arthur's depicted as this pure and innocent figure, and it's symbolized by him being able to draw Excalibur from the stone.
Yes, that classic moment.
Yeah.
The classic hero's journey moment.
Yeah.
He proves his worthiness, and he steps into his destiny.
But things get really messy, don't they?
They do. With the introduction of Lancelot, the dynamic shifts dramatically. He's this almost superhuman knight.
Right.
He's dazzling in his skill and charisma.
Right.
And of course, he and Guinevere are drawn to each other.
Okay, so we have that classic love triangle set up.
Yes.
But I feel like it's more than just romantic rivalry, right?
Absolutely. Deeper down, this love triangle represents the clash between different forces within us. The human psyche.
Okay.
Arthur, in his purity and idealism, represents the aspiration towards a higher order, towards creating a perfect kingdom.
I see.
But Lancelot and Guinevere, they embody that raw, passionate side of human nature.
Uh-huh.
The part of us that yearns for connection,
Okay.
even if it means defying conventions.
And this clash throws Camelot into chaos, right?
Yes.
The perfect kingdom starts to crumble. Yeah,
Is that because of Lancelot and Guinevere?
that's a great question.
Or is there something more going on?
It's easy to blame the love triangle, to see it as this external force disrupting Arthur's vision.
Right.
But the enthusiasts we were listening to, they argue that the problem lies within Arthur himself.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just external forces, but inner struggles as well.
Exactly. Arthur, despite his noble intentions, can't transcend his own human flaws.
I see.
He becomes consumed by jealousy and possessiveness.
Okay.
And these emotions, they poison the very heart of Camelot.
That's a pretty bleak assessment of King Arthur.
Wow.
I mean, he's supposed to be the hero.
He is the hero, but he's human.
Right.
And that's the point these enthusiasts are making. The Arthurian legend isn't a simple tale of good versus evil.
Right.
It's a reflection of the complexities of human nature.
Okay.
Even the most noble among us can be susceptible to jealousy, pride, the desire for control.
So Arthur's failure isn't just about this love triangle gone wrong.
Right. It's about his inability to confront and transcend his own inner demons.
That's it. And that struggle, that battle between our higher aspirations and our, baser instincts is something we all grapple with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This makes me think about my own life, my own relationships. Have I ever let jealousy or possessiveness, cloud my judgment, poison how I interact with others? And I think
Well,
we all have to some
I guess
extent.
to some extent, yeah.
It's that age-old struggle between love and ego.
Exactly. And the Arthurian legend dramatizes that struggle on this epic scale.
Right.
But it also offers a path forward, like a way to navigate those really treacherous waters.
And that path leads to the Grail.
Yes.
Right, that mysterious symbol of spiritual fulfillment and transformation.
Precisely. But before we dive into that whole Grail quest,
Okay.
let's take a moment to understand what the Grail actually represents.
Okay.
Because it's not just a magical object.
Right.
It's a symbol of something much deeper.
Okay, so what does the Grail symbolize?
So in Excalibur, it's closely associated with the blood of Christ, emphasizing that sacred and transformative power.
Right.
But in the broader context of the Arthurian legend, it represents humanity's yearning for wholeness,
Okay.
for connection to something greater than ourselves.
So it's a symbol of, spiritual enlightenment.
Yes, the search for ultimate truth.
I gotta admit, I've always found the Grail kind of confusing.
Yeah.
It's this elusive symbol,
Right.
and everyone seems to have a different interpretation of what it means.
That's true, and that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
Right.
Because the Grail is like a mirror,
Okay.
reflecting our own beliefs and aspirations.
Right.
But at its core, it represents that potential for transformation, for healing, for transcending our limited human perspective.
So it's not just about finding a physical object.
No.
It's about a journey of self-discovery,
Yes,
a quest for inner truth.
exactly. And that quest, as we'll see, is filled with challenges.
Yeah.
It demands courage, compassion, and a willingness to confront the deepest parts of ourselves.
Ooh, I'm eager to dive into all of that.
Yes.
But I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yes, I think so too.
Perhaps this is a good place to pause for now.
I think so, yeah.
So we've laid the foundation, explored the historical roots of the legend, and we've introduced this power of archetypes.
Yeah.
In our next segment, we'll delve into the Grail quest itself
Yes.
and uncover the profound lessons it holds for us.
Great. Looking forward to that.
Until then, keep those Arthurian images swirling in your mind. Think about the characters, the symbols. See if you can spot those archetypes playing out in your own life.
Good idea.
It's more relevant than you might think.
Absolutely. So we left off talking about that Grail quest as this journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And how it's not just about, like, a single object, but about confronting our own limitations.
Right, exactly. Like the challenges those knights face.
Yeah.
They're like reflections of the challenges we face in our own lives.
I agree.
And speaking of challenges, this brings us to that crucial question posed in Perlisvas.
Okay.
Whom does the Grail serve?
Ah, yes. That question really cuts to the heart of it all.
Right.
It's a question that Percival, the knight who ultimately achieves the Grail, he has to answer this correctly.
Right.
And his response, "You, master and all mankind," highlights this critical shift in perspective.
So it's not about like personal gain or glory. It's about service to something greater.
Precisely. The Grail isn't a prize to be won for oneself.
Right.
It's a symbol of responsibility, of dedicating one's life to a higher purpose.
And that idea of service, it echoes throughout the Arthurian legend, right?
It does.
Like the knights are meant to be protectors of the realm, champions of justice.
Yes.
And their individual quests are ultimately intertwined with the well-being of the kingdom as a whole.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting how we often get so caught up in our own personal quests,
Right.
our own desires, and we forget about that bigger picture.
Yes.
We focus on what we can get instead of what we can give.
I love that. That's such an insightful observation.
Yeah.
The Arthurian legend reminds us that true fulfillment comes not from selfish pursuits, but from aligning ourselves with a purpose that transcends our individual egos.
So the Grail quest isn't just about finding this mystical cup. It's about finding that place of service, that connection to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And that connection, it's deeply intertwined with the process of self-discovery.
Right.
Remember how we talked about Arthur's inability to overcome his jealousy and possessiveness? Yeah. This failure ultimately contributes to Camelot's downfall.
Right. His inability to conquer those inner demons
Yeah.
undermines his ability to rule effectively.
Yeah. Exactly.
How does this tie back to the Grail quest?
Okay.
Is there a connection between self-knowledge and service?
Absolutely. These enthusiasts argue that the Arthurian archetype as a whole remains unresolved precisely because of this disconnect. And they even pose this question: what would Arthur have to do to pass to the next level?
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Right.
What's their answer?
They suggest that Arthur needed to accept the process and work on the ego to truly evolve.
So instead of trying to control everything externally,
Right.
he needed to turn inward and master himself first.
Exactly. And this is where those practices of self-observation that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
they become so essential.
Okay.
You remember the 3 levels.
Yeah.
Recognizing the distinction between observer and observed, realizing their ultimate unity,
Yeah.
and finally transcending that duality altogether to reach a state of pure awareness.
Okay. Those sound pretty abstract.
They do require a shift in perspective, it's true,
Right.
but they're not as esoteric as they might sound. That first level, recognizing the distinction between the observer and the observed, starts with simply paying attention to your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
Okay.
It's about noticing those inner voices
Right.
without getting swept away by them.
So instead of identifying with every thought or feeling that comes up, we create some space between ourselves and those internal experiences.
Exactly. And that space, that's where we have more clarity and we have more choice. We can start to see our thoughts and emotions as temporary visitors
Right.
rather than like defining aspects of our being.
Okay, that makes sense. What about that second level?
Yes.
The unity of observer and observed.
Right.
That one's still kind of a mind bender for me.
Think of it this way. When you observe a thought,
Yeah.
who's doing the observing?
Right. It's still me.
It's still you.
Yeah.
So on a fundamental level, the observer and the observed are not separate.
Oh.
They're aspects of the same consciousness.
It's like we're both the actor and the audience
Yes.
in the theater of our own minds.
What a brilliant analogy. And this realization, it's subtle, but it can be so liberating.
Yeah.
It allows us to detach from that illusion of separateness
Right.
and connect with a deeper sense of wholeness.
And the third level, that state of pure awareness
Yes.
beyond duality.
Yes.
Is that like attainable for everyone?
It takes practice and dedication.
Right.
but they believe it's a potential within all of us. They describe it as this state of pure being
Okay.
where the mind becomes still and we experience this profound connection to everything around us.
Wow, that sounds incredibly peaceful
It does.
and liberating. But I imagine it's not something you just stumble upon accidentally.
No.
It takes a certain level of like commitment to self-awareness
Yes.
and inner work.
You're absolutely right. It's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
And like any worthwhile journey,
Yeah.
it has its challenges and its rewards.
So connecting this back to Arthur,
Yeah.
are you suggesting that if he had embraced these practices of self-observation,
Yes.
he might have been able to transcend those destructive patterns?
Exactly.
Jealousy and possessiveness?
Exactly.
He could have maybe lead Camelot to a different outcome.
That is such an insightful connection.
Yeah.
And perhaps by engaging in these practices ourselves,
Uh-huh.
we can learn from Arthur's mistakes and create a different kind of kingdom, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
This whole conversation is making me think about a recent experience I had.
Okay?
You know Padre Mario Pantaleo,
Yes, of course.
the Italian priest known for his healing work.
Yeah, a remarkable figure.
I had this vivid vision of him recently,
Wow.
and it connects to what we've been discussing.
Okay.
I saw Padre Pantaleo's hand emerging from the earth.
What a striking image.
It felt like this symbol of healing and service,
Wow.
of reaching out to help others. And it really clicked when you were describing the Grail serving all mankind.
Right.
The importance of giving rather than receiving.
Yeah.
It's like Padre Pantaleo's hand embodies that same principle of selfless service.
That's beautiful. I love that interpretation. The hand is often seen as a symbol of action,
Uh-huh.
of creation.
Yeah.
And in this context, it represents the power of reaching out with compassion and love,
Right.
of extending ourselves to serve a greater good.
It's interesting how the hand is also associated with touch,
Yes.
with connection.
Yeah.
It's like it symbolizes that bridge between our inner world and the outer world,
Beautiful.
between self-knowledge and service to others.
Yes. This brings us back to that essential question.
Okay.
What does it mean to give life through the heart?
That's a question that resonates deeply with me.
It does, yeah.
It's like we're being invited to embody that same spirit of service,
Yeah.
that same like radiant compassion that Padre Pantaleo exemplified.
Exactly.
But like, what does that look like in our everyday lives?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of our routines,
Yeah,
our own personal dramas.
absolutely. And that's why cultivating these practices of self-awareness is so important.
Okay.
The more we connect with our inner light,
Yeah.
with that source of wisdom and compassion within,
Yeah.
the more easily we can radiate that energy outward.
So it's not about like grandiose gestures or heroic deeds.
Right.
It's about the small, everyday acts of kindness.
Yes.
The moments of genuine connection.
Yes,
The willingness to listen with an open heart.
exactly. It's about bringing that spirit of service, that quality of loving awareness
Yeah.
into all aspects of our life.
It's almost like embodying those Arthurian ideals isn't about recreating Camelot, literally,
Right.
but about carrying that essence of unity and service into our own interactions,
Yes.
our own communities.
What a profound insight. And perhaps by doing so,
Yeah.
we can begin to weave a new tapestry of interconnectedness,
Right.
a world where compassion and understanding truly reign.
This has been an incredible deep dive,
It has.
and I'm so grateful to have shared this journey with you.
Likewise. And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us
Yes.
on this exploration of archetypes, self-discovery,
Mm-hmm.
and the enduring power of the Arthurian legend.
And you know what? We're just getting started.
We are. In our next episode, we'll delve even deeper
Yeah.
into the nuances of specific characters
Yes.
like Merlin, Percival, and Morgana.
And here's the really fun part. We're going to watch Excalibur together.
Yes.
We'll be hosting this special online event
It'll be fun.
where we can all experience the magic of the film
Yeah.
and then have a live discussion about everything we've been talking about.
I love it. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity to apply all these insights
Yeah.
and see those archetypes come alive on screen.
So stay tuned for more information about that.
Yes.
In the meantime, keep those Arthurian archetypes swirling in your mind.
And may your journey be filled with wonder and transformation. So as we get ready to wrap up our deep dive into the Arthurian legend,
Yeah.
I want to just encourage everyone to really think about how these characters and their journeys
Right.
resonate with you personally as we move into this next episode, where we explore those characters in more depth.
Yeah. Like, Which character struggles do you identify with the most?
Ah.
Who embodies qualities you aspire to, you know?
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
these aren't just characters in a story. They're
Yeah.
reflections of us,
Right, right.
different facets of ourselves.
It's like looking in a mirror,
Yes, exactly.
but like a multifaceted mirror.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I'm still thinking about that image of Padre Pantaleo's hand emerging from the earth.
Oh, me too. Such a powerful image.
It's like this reminder that even in the darkest of times,
Yeah,
there's always a potential for healing,
absolutely.
for growth, for reaching out and connecting with others.
Yes. And they connect so beautifully with the idea of, you know, giving life through the heart,
Right.
which is all about radiating that compassion and service.
It's like we all have that potential within us, right?
We do.
That capacity to be a source of healing and inspiration for others.
I agree. And it's not about being perfect or having all the answers.
Right.
It's about showing up with an open heart, a willingness to listen,
Yeah.
a genuine desire to connect.
And maybe that's the true legacy of the Arthurian legend. You know, the real message within those tales of knights and quests.
Right.
It's not about finding some magical chalice.
Yeah.
It's about discovering that wellspring of compassion inside ourselves.
Yes.
And letting it flow out into the world.
A world that really needs that healing energy right now.
This has been such a deep dive.
It has.
I'm so grateful to have shared this journey with you.
Likewise. And to you, our listener, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
As we explored these archetypes and self-discovery and the enduring power of this legend.
And until next time,
Yes.
may your own quest for the Grail,
Yes.
for meaning and purpose, be filled with adventure, insight, and really transformative encounters.
Absolutely.